And for the pledge. Okay, turn that on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get going, I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize the passing of Nicole Salois. Nicole was an integral part of Flathead High School and the activities department. She cared deeply for Flathead High School and treated all students as if they were her own children. There are so many instances in which she poured time and energy into the students. She was the first advocate for Flathead activities. So, moment of silence for her. Thank you. Next up is the approval of the May 27th minutes. If you've had a chance to review those, do we have a motion?
So
Thank you, Sue.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ursula. Is there any corrections or discussion on the minutes? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public comment? I don't see anybody. I think we'll just move on. Next up is the personnel activity report. Any updates on that, or is it as it is?
As is.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Thank you, Rebecca. Do we have a second? Thank you, Jack. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the stipend renewal list. Liz, are you taking this? Okay.
This is just our annual report renewing contracts for people with continued stipend. Well, any activity or extra duty they do that falls on our stipend matrix, this is a renewal of their contract.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't able to make it to the stipend. Did a stipend meeting happen? Yes, it did end up happening,
Did happen.
but no changes were, like, I saw there was like a little bit of, basically it was like a little bit of reworking. I was looking for it on the big list of all of this. Can you tell us, like, are there any changes, like significant changes?
On the roster list, there's no changes.
Okay.
And then an overview of the stipend committee was that nothing came out of that committee to bring forth to the board.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. So, okay.
That's on them.
That's on me. Thanks, Eric. You'll see the stipend roster, but also the driver's ed roster. It's going to be one action item, but it comes out of two separate funds. So if you have questions about either one of those, ask away. If not, we have a motion and a second.
I think Jack seconded it.
Yep. So if there's any further discussion,
Wait, was there a
Move to accept as presented.
thank you, Rebecca.
My brain just broke too. I was
Mine
like, wait,
too.
that doesn't feel.
Thank you, Rebecca. Do we have a second then?
Also.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving the stipend roster and the driver's ed renewal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the daycare MOU. Liz, you're still up.
So this is a memorandum of agreement with Little Explorers. They have housed the daycare at the Edgerton site for the past few years. We used to have a separate daycare partner, the Hive, that was at Peterson. Due to some shifts internally with other programs, that classroom was no longer available at Peterson. And so the Hive, also, we don't have a partnership with moving forward to propose to you, but Little Explorers could expand then and take on 2 locations. We actually looked at Flathead as a first choice, and then some outdoor play areas were what really got in the way of that. Licensure wise, you have to have an enclosed space. The little mound in the boulevard out by what used to be staff parking didn't feel most appropriate. So we looked at an alternative site at Rankin, and they're going to also get a second early lit classroom there. So that paired with a daycare, so 3 sort of classrooms of that same age kids felt most appropriate. Our staff was most supportive of continuing that at Rankin. And by staff, I'm talking about the ones who currently or plan to have enrolled daycare aged kids that would participate. So that's what this MOA addresses, is 2 sites with Little Explorers, one at Edgerton and one at Rankin. Also to note, since Little Explorers then would close their out of KPS second location, which they're paying rent for, we were able to knock down their daily rate for our staff to $45 a day, which is significantly lower than the Valley average. So for comparison, I was paying $72 per day at a place for at a Woodland Montessori for my daughter 2 years ago. So, yep, we're getting where we want to be, and it's a partnership that's well established. So, strongly supported by me as well.
Was lunch included? Usually I thought it was under $50 a day without lunch or higher if lunch was included. Was lunch included in this or?
Little Explorers did not or does not provide lunches for their participants or their kids enrolled. So parents do provide their own food for each child.
Any other questions? Will?
So if you take all of our staff who have childcare needs,
Mhm.
what percentage do you think this program takes care of?
Great question, Will. Percentage wise, it's quite small right now. But what we're hoping to get the word out for is that this isn't just for our certified staff. So that's what we're going to be. We've already blasted it out to our staff. It's for certified, it's for classified, it's for any staff member. And then it's offered to those daycare providers, staff, children, and then it's provided to grandchildren of all of our staff members next. Then we branch out into our partner districts or partner districts, or like Whitefish, Columbia Falls, so valley-wide districts.
Have we ever gotten that far?
We have. So we actually have 3 families that were participating this year from West Valley School. Sorry, it might be 3 students instead of 3 families, but 3. And we have 15 children planned to enroll for next year, but we can hopefully have 30. So percentage-wise is small, the need is large, and it does provide a appreciated convenience and peace of mind for the staff that do participate.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
What the school provides is the space, and it's still totally run as its own thing. Is that right?
Almost. So space, but that does include like utilities. Plus we do clean the room, so it does add a custodial entity. But I mean, we've lost a classroom at Rankin and added a daycare, so it doesn't add to the needs for our FT for custodial.
Right.
But significantly, we're trading space for the opportunity to provide our staff this at a lower cost than they could go outside for.
Right. And so my other question was, who, like, is there a specific, like a person that's kind of is there a director? I know it was like being run by the people who were involved? Who is that now? Just I was just
So when this all started, it was built to be a co-op where that co-op of parents might find a parent or community member that would want to sort of direct this, and that could significantly lower costs, probably to like $25 to $30 a day for our staff. That parent group did not find that when this was implemented, so instead they reached out to daycare providers that were already established. So that is why the cost is higher than we're shooting for, but we are just working with our partners right now. So
Are our students allowed to do internships? Good.
yep. So that was, I think, the big hope for Flathead High School is it was going to be the classroom right next to the early childhood actual classroom where students go and serve. They also have their work-based learning right here, so it could also serve some students that might have those wants and not a lot of transportation, etc. But Rankin is still positive and welcoming for those as well. And Mike Kelly, we've already reached out to Mike and just made sure that partnership is well known and can advance there. So hopefully we'll grow our own.
Two questions. One is, so if we're cheaper and convenient, and why are you say that we currently have 15 enrolled and we have space for 30? Do you have any insight into why we're not filling the classrooms if we're?
Yeah, I do. As a newly out of the daycare realm age children, I can tell you as soon as you are expecting, you get on lists for childcare in this valley. The wait list is between 6 to 12 months at some places. And lots of daycares didn't make it through COVID. So the need is there, but a lot of our newer expecting families already know to sign up at the daycare, where when we started this, they were probably already on a list, had a plan. And when you're a new parent, you have a plan, you stick to the plan, and you don't want to alter from the plan. So I hope as word gets out about this, being cost effective and convenient and a highly reputable place for people to send their kids, that will just grow.
And the other question was, if we're just about on the house up where we are, I mean, presumably the daycare workers have background checks. Are
Correct.
we doing that, but we're making sure that that happens and
Yep.
that they're taken care of?
That's in our MOA, that hopefully you approve here shortly. That the daycare, that's on the daycare is, if it were a co-op, then that administrative responsibility would probably be on the district. But since it is a licensed daycare provider, we're gonna go ahead and put that administrative duty back on you for your employees and hold you to that.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was just gonna add in, I have also heard the feedback from people of like, this sounds so great, but what if we do it for a year and it doesn't keep going? And then it was that same waiting list thing. So I think having it be more established will make a big difference.
Is this an elementary or both district? Thank you.
Any other questions? Liz, I got one more, sorry. Have you looked at the possibility of doing it at LEC with the student population there? And I know at least some of those students have children, and it would be super easy and really convenient for them to be able to attend school there, plus just drop their kid off at a room there. And I know they have a tennis court that we could change into a play area. Anyway, that just a question. It could be a simple yes or no.
No. Possibility for the future, but not at this time. You're welcome.
With that, do we have a motion to approve the daycare MOA?
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Ursula, for the second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the LEC Teacher on Special Assignment. Matt?
Yeah, I'll tag team this with Pete if he wants to chime in. So what we're looking at here is a commitment, a 2-year commitment, so that we can establish a program that has a teacher on a special assignment, referred to as a TOSA. And it'd be unique at the LEC because the LEC has 1 to 2 teachers per department. So when we consider what it looks like to have an instructional leader or formerly a department head at Glacier, Flathead, or the middle school, they can lead a department of 10 to 15 staff members. So at the LEC, we don't have that same structure, and those teachers in those content areas are supposed to align with one of the high schools. Through the curriculum changes that we're making, or curriculum adoption processes and refinement processes that we're in, we know we need more support at the LEC. So the proposal here for this TOSA is that you would have a TOSA that would work with several different departments, but with the same type of stipend structure as an instructional leader at a regular department at one of the other high schools. The challenge I think that's unique to this TOSA is that they would be working with different content teachers, but the benefit is it's a smaller group. We think after 2 years, we'll be able to have some of this curriculum work sorted out, and we could go back to the structure that we have now where they align with either Glacier or Flathead.
And just one thing on the budget side. So obviously with the 0.4 FTE, that is budget neutral because the graduation coach, we moved over into pre-ETs, paid out as pre-ET. So that opened up the 0.4 that we're using for this TOSA position.
Any questions for Pete and Matt?
At least Pete made me think of it. It might be for Pete. So what we have been calling department head leaders, and we're now looking to instructional coaches, instructional leaders. Thank you. Are a stipend position, correct? And this would not be a stipend position, but a FTE position. Is that?
Well, with the instructional leaders, they're also given a period to do that in lieu of their duty period. So that's where it opens up as far as assigning a 0.2 to that. So they're given a period and they're given a stipend.
When you're calculating the value or the investment in a formerly department head or an instructional leader, you're calculating it at the rate of 1 period because they're given 1 period per day to do that work, and they're given the stipend.
So this is a similar structure.
Same structure.
Okay, that's what
Yep.
I would take it was structural.
Yep.
And just one other note too. So, I mean, we've opened it up so it could be split a 0.2. So 2 people could take 0.2 or 1 person could take a 0.4 depending on how Jody wants to move forward with it and who applies for it.
And the stipend then would be split if it's stipend amount, if it's 2 people? If it's 2 people, the stipend amount is then split equally between them, or is it 2 stipend positions then, or anyway,
Well,
we don't
actually,
need
the
to.
cost saving is 1 person took it because they get 1 stipend, but they get 2 periods.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion?
Actually, this is not a action item. This
Well,
is
it's
just informational.
You're right. Thank you.
We these fall under like an administrative function, but because it has to do with FTE, even though it's temporary, I thought it was important that the full board hear the discussion.
Thanks for doing that, Matt. I appreciate that. So with the, any other questions for staff in reference to that?
Just thank you for keeping us in the loop. I appreciate it.
Okay, next up is the addition of 1 FTE for not a new bus route, but coming into the district as opposed to contracting it out. Who's going to take that?
I'll take it. So this is a route that has been previously approved by the board. It's a longer route. It's an expensive route. We had contracted it out. And so as we were going through the contract negotiations, that was one of the things that we could see some cost savings if we took this internally. And so we want to take the route, do it internally through our transportation department, and it's estimated to save us about $100,000 a year.
Is that the formal motion?
Any questions? Go ahead, Jack.
Does that take into account depreciation and the additional expense on the bus or replacement of it?
No. Yeah, that's, wisely pointed out. There's a cost to running these routes. And so I think the route is estimated to cost us $100,000 annually. But then there are other factors associated with that cost. But it is a significant cost savings, and it really stands out as one of the more expensive routes. In general, I am an advocate of identifying these types of routes and doing these types of routes in-house. And hopefully this is something we can revisit as a cost savings measure in the future.
Well, I'm always, having not participated in the analysis of it, whenever I hear of something being a cost savings, I'm always curious to know how the total picture was looked at related to bus depreciation, wear, tear, maintenance, and all that. Because when you're talking about a $200,000 item, to what degree does it shorten the life of it from 7 or 8 years to just 5 years, for example? And how does that cost come through? So that's where my curiosity comes from.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with some of these longer routes is that bus depreciation, or buses go out of service for a couple of reasons. One is they age out. That's the most common. And the other one is just major maintenance. The hardest routes on buses is what we refer to as a milk run. And when there's a lot of stop, that's really hard on those big vehicles. These longer routes just don't have as much. So we see this with activities too. The buses that we use for activities that are over the road highway miles end up with a lot more miles on them than our regular in-town routes. But you're right. There's a diminishing return on that, but this is still all things considered, still a significant savings. Yep.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Jen, do we have a second? Thank you, Ursula. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the fiscal year 26 MQEC membership outreach. Matt.
This is standard every year.
Thank you, Jack. It is.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sue.
Montana Quality Education Council.
It's the group that sued the state 15, 20 years ago to get equal funding.
Perfect.
And they have the lawsuit going on right now. Private charging.
By the what, huh?
Private charging.
Oh, yeah. Are they the ones carrying that one?
Hold, just for the recording purposes, can we, one person at a time, and turn your mic on? Thanks.
I can't remember his name, but it was started by Susan Nicosia's husband.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Sue.
And I will just make the comment that MQEC, their executive director is Doug Reisig right now, and he lives at the Capitol during the legislative session. He is really an excellent person and has a good relationship with all the partners. MQEC is a partner. It's a coalition. MTSBA is part of it. SAM is part of it. NASBO is part of it. And the rural ed. SAM, School Administrators of Montana. Yeah.
And of course,
Did I not say that?
You did.
See?
I just know that acronym.
I'm all for board information, and this would be great. I think if we made sure that new board members were aware of it, because this may not be something they're aware of, but this is the sort of thing that I'm all for moving to the consent agenda. It's just as yearly similar, I don't, yeah, unless you think their board members aren't aware of it, so we need to bring it to their attention. This is the sort of thing that I'm all for. Put it on the consent agenda.
We'll be glad to do that. Next go around, there are really two bills that you guys pay directly for services related to the board. One is the MTSBA membership, and the other one is this MQEC. But with the blessing of the board, and obviously anything on the consent agenda can be pulled and discussed as well. So I don't think there's any fear ever of hiding things on a consent agenda. It's just more of making sure we keep track of it.
Go ahead.
Sue?
So we don't approve Sam's membership?
You approve it in the financial reports, but that's a renewed contract that we renew. So it gets approved by the board as all financial contracts get.
And same thing with Maxwell.
Yep. And we have, there's lots of different service contracts that, end up on agendas, but they'd be similar, yeah.
I withdraw my thought of putting it on the consent agenda. Sorry, you are correct.
There was a year that there were some board members that wanted to discuss potentially not renewing with MTSBA. It was decided we should continue to renew, and that would still be on the consent agenda and it could still be discussed. But as far as putting it onto the consent agenda, there has been in the last 6 years a year where it was a little bit more of a discussion.
Jack?
I couldn't quite hear the acronyms that Sue was using, but I assume they're administrative associations and they're all part of the job descriptions that everybody's a member of. So it's really more of an administrative function because we've already stipulated in the job descriptions that they're to become participants and members and that we're going to pay their participation of it. So to me, those things are just default automatic ones because we've already required that.
Okay, so I think we have a motion by Jack and second by Sue. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Policy update, first reading.
We'll do a first reading on these first two policies, but I'll talk about them in concert because they really play off each other. So policy 5012 is a policy that outlines who our contacts are for Title IX investigations, since we have a new HR director, which, by the way, welcome to the table, Carrie.
We should have.
Yeah, we missed that introduction a while ago. I'm sorry about that.
That's on me, Carrie, sorry.
So Miss Brady has been able to join us since the beginning of June. We're really grateful that she's been able to carve this time away for the onboarding. This is a position that we benefit. Everybody benefits from a thorough onboarding process. So while she's not active in the role, being that she's the only one answering emails going to the HR department, we're using this time for a lot of training and just collecting of information. In this process, so she will be referenced as a primary contact for Title IX investigations. That needs to be updated in the policy, and that's the 5012 policy. So in looking into that, I assumed that was a clerical change that could be made because it does not substantially change the intent of a policy, but it can't because we have never adopted policy 1310. So in policy 1310, and that's for the first reading, you'll notice in red at the bottom, and I won't read it to you, but basically what it says is through this policy, if the administration wants to make changes to a policy like the policy I'm recommending in 5012, that it can do so as long as it does not substantially change the intent of the policy. I think it's just a good practice. It's recommended by MTSBA. So I'm recommending first reading on both of those today.
Any questions for staff on either 1310 or 5012.
Just darn, we don't get to vote on it, so I don't get a woohoo. I want a woohoo like Jane had.
Rebecca, I'm assuming you're going to get a ton of woohoos since you're on the policy committee, and you are. And we loved your mind that you put to those, so you're going to get a great chance of woohoos down the road. Yeah.
So the impression, one thing that might be helpful in these policy reviews is if you put required in there somewhere as opposed to optional. It might help everybody understand them and know the simplicity of them.
Yeah, so the first one, to Jack's point, the first one would be optional. We don't need the policy that would allow for those changes in the future. The second policy is required. We have to have a policy that has updated directory information.
Thank you. Next up would be the out of district enrollment.
Policy 3141. Out of district enrollment.
Yep.
We're talking
Yeah,
about the
that's what I was-
procedures associated. Yep.
We're sorry, I thought you were speaking.
This procedure.
It's a procedure, and I appreciate you following along and making sure that I'm doing it right, because I've been known to skip a thing or two. Who is going to take that? Sarah, thank
Yep,
you.
I'll take that one. So again, we're not changing the actual policy. The intent of the policy and the policy itself will remain as is, but the procedure we're updating, and we'll likely update annually, particularly the capacity percentages. And so we made changes in a few different areas that I've highlighted for you. K-5, we went from 95 to about 93%. And that's really, again, this is specific to out of district, but it's to make sure that we have room for neighborhood kids that move in, at least a couple spaces per grade level in each school. And then middle school, we bumped up to match that at 93% capacity. High school was staying at 100%. The only time they would turn an out-of-district family down is if certain courses or programs were full. And then our early literacy program, we had 5 classes. With the new legislation, we were able to add 2 more. So we have a total of 7. And we'll take those right up to 100% capacity. And really, it's to ensure that we're not making money off of these programs. To hire a teacher and a para and enroll the 18 students maximum creates great things in our community, but essentially is a wash financially for us. So to piggyback a little bit off of the daycare piece, and your question about staff students, I don't have a total number, but what's been amazing about adding these 2 early lits with new changes in eligibility, we've just been able to take care of quite a few of our staff's students. And because we have an early lit in every school, their kids can come to school with them and attend one of our early lit programs, which is amazing. The only other piece that I would mention, aside from just out of district enrollment, is with the reductions made on the elementary side, we knew based on our projected deficit that we had to hit a target of about, our best guesstimate was about 94% capacity. Right now, not including kindergarten, because it's normal for kindergarten to be like a slow roll on enrollment. So 1st through 5th grade, our range in the elementary or the K-5 schools is anywhere from 92 to 96% capacity.
So that means we're only taking out of district.
That is inclusive of some out of districts that have already been approved and are on the board agenda tonight. And we will only accept them. Now, remember, this is an average across all 6 schools. There are certain schools that have 10 spots in 4th grade. And so if an out of district family enrolls and says, we'd like to go to school A, and they're full in 4th grade, we would say no, but we do have room at school B. So we will continue to accept up to that 93% capacity only if that grade level in school has space, leaving a little bit of room for neighborhood kids. The conversation that I've been having with Matt, and that I think we'll just need to continue having, is one, we have a metric to look at in terms of when we would reduce staff. Like we have a staff to kind of student to capacity ratio that we're looking at. But we need that on the reverse. When our numbers get so high, we need to be able to have a metric to come to you guys and say, we have enough new students enrolled that it makes sense to add FTE back. And we're hovering right on that spot at the K-5. Like some of these schools that are up to 96+% capacity is really going to be challenging. And it's going to be challenging because we will have to turn down some neighborhood kids, right? Like if we're full in certain grade levels at a certain school and then family comes and moves here and they live in that neighborhood, they'll be rerouted to a different school. And that's unsettling for some folks. So
Do we approve out of district requests before, like, is there a delayed cutoff? So if somebody moves over the summer, which is a typical time for families to move.
Mhm.
They move over the summer and then they get in contact with the school sometime in July. Do we wait to accept our out of district enrollments till say like August 1?
not necessarily. We do give priority to our neighborhood families. So we won't start accepting out of district. We open the re-enrollment window for about a month and say on the website, like, hey, if you, even for out of state, like we've had a lot of out of state people who know they're moving, even if they don't move till the summer, who start the enrollment process. The tricky part with waiting too long is that we need to hit, right, to be within our ratios of like neutral and no projected deficit. We're relying on about 15% of our enrollment being out of district. So it's a sticky wicket waiting too long.
So we already have in that 93 to 96%, we already have accepted out of district.
Correct. Only in,
We have already accepted that.
yep, correct. Only in grade levels where we have room for new kids to move in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm just saying is you'd have room for new kids to move in now, but if families move and they try and enroll in July, those costs are full.
Right. And then
And then they're going across Main Street to a different school.
the unintended consequence and the reason we have to find this balance is if we don't do that and we make those out of district families wait, they enroll somewhere else, we lose that enrollment in that A and B, and we just take, and then no new neighborhood kids move in.
Sorry, I'm just going back and forth, but if they really want into a certain school that they're doing the out of district thing, which isn't a slight thing to do, I would think if they had to wait, they might get enrolled somewhere else, and then they would just say, okay, we're open July 15th, whenever we are. And then they're like, okay, we're in. And then we unenroll from that backup school, right? And then we move to our preferred school, which is whatever they were enrolled in now. I'm just looking at it because a lot of families move in the summer. And if we're already full and we're not accepting out of district, except for maybe one school that has capacity for 10, it just seems like we're kind of doing a disservice to the neighborhood schools. Sorry.
I think the people moving from our area to our area, not out of staters, but people know when the, deadlines to enroll in a school are, and often would choose to stay in the school we actually had the opposite problem. They've moved out of, we're in Hedges, they've moved out of Hedges, but still want to stay with that school because they've had those teachers for 3 years. I think everyone knows, kindergarten roundup, okay, it's been a while, February 15th or whatever it is. Sign up for the middle school. I think most of the kids in our district really do know when those dates and deadlines are, and accept the fact that if they move after them, they may not be able to move. That's just my experience.
If you're coming in from our partner districts, they have different enrollment timelines than, or from wherever, they have different enrollment deadlines than KPS proper does, So I'm just saying if the goal is to service our families in the neighborhood schools and fill in as we can with out of district, I think our timing should be reflective of that, I guess is my point. So,
Are you suggesting that the procedure, instead of it being at that level, that it be at that per school?
So we're blending the level over the entire elementary district.
We do have it per school. I
So
gave you
it
the
is
averages.
93% per school, which is basically one opening per class, two openings per
Two
grade.
openings per class. Yep.
Yeah, and so I think that the intent of the procedures to do what you're suggesting, and that's maintain the space for those moves. We have some families that this process is rough for, but it's typically out of neighborhood and out of district families that want into a school that's not their neighborhood school, or out of district students that want in here. I'd say the most common frustration, and Sarah can correct me if it's changed recently, but it would be an out of district family that wants to come, and there's capacity for an out of district, let's say, first grader at Hedges, but not a fourth grader at Hedges. So we can take the first grader at Hedges, but the fourth grader has to go to Rankin. And parents, it's just hard for them because they don't want their two kids at different schools, but they really want their kids in Kalispell Public Schools. So that is more often the problem that we have with people, and that could work for out of neighborhood as well. I don't know how many active cases we have where we have a in neighborhood kid that can't get into their in neighborhood school. We do have some, but it's as a percentage of all the problems or the challenges, it's a smaller problem, and it's more associated with Edgerton district, because Edgerton is such a large geographic district that is seeing a lot of growth. Our Rankin's similar, and probably will have more of those problems, but it's more based on like the building capacity and the classroom capacity versus the out of district, in district transfer problem.
Yes.
Is that fair,
I
Tamara?
would say it is a small problem. It is happening at Edgerton. If we had to add FTE back, it would likely be an FTE at Edgerton, because that's where we are just seeing like huge growth. Lots of out of district families were turned down, and we still have a handful of families that last minute enrollees, last couple of weeks, and some of those grade levels were full with neighborhood kids already.
And have we already accepted out of district kids?
Not in those grade levels. No.
No.
I guess this is
So the class is actually just full,
the class is full
whether
with
you're in or
neighborhood.
out of district.
The class is full with neighborhood kids in
And
Edgerton.
that's a problem at Rankin. It used to be a problem at Hedges when I first started here. It's no longer a problem at Hedges. And the problem is at Rankin and Edgerton. And again, it's tied to that Rankin takes care of the south side of Kalispell, basically that geographic region for that neighborhood, and Edgerton takes care of the north side.
Right.
So that we just have a large property boundaries inside those elementary districts.
Do we have discretion to kind of like delay our acceptance of out of district in those particular schools that we know we have a higher risk of running
Are we even
into a
putting it in there?
local student population
This
problem?
this is what I would say we just need to be like super cognizant of. Yes, we could. There's this continuum, right? We ended up in the elementary district at a place where we had to make 15 reductions because for many years it was like, oh, the focus was solely on neighborhood schools. So we would hire a new staff and leave classrooms at 70% capacity. And so we could do that again and end up right back where we left off.
Yeah, we can't do that again.
Right? Can't do that again. So then the natural consequence of these reductions is that we're way tighter in numbers, and we will likely have to, and it is a small percentage, but make some shifts. We could delay out of district enrollment till August, but again, it's about 15% of our enrollment is out of district, and we run the risk of new neighborhood kids not moving in and losing out on.
The biggest lever we have to pull is denying out of district requests because of
Correct.
capacity.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, can we just wait to accept them?
We could wait to accept them, but usually people enroll somewhere so they know where their kids are going versus waiting.
And the policy is clear that there's actually a timeline in the law that we can't wait. Like once they've enrolled, once they've enrolled or once they've put in their step one, we're on a timeline. What we can do is lower the percentage here, but we can't. So that would be the idea, is that we could go from 93% lower, but we can't delay once they apply with us. We have to follow policy.
That might be a solution. I'm just thinking out loud because obviously with our budget, we're cutting 15 positions, which means that our class size capacity is going to go up in our elementary schools, right? So we're naturally, by living within our budget, we are going to be at a higher class size, which means there's going to be less availability for out of district students. And if we time it so that, because the thing about those out-of-district students is they're out of district. They do have a district they can go to, right? But they can enroll and apply to come here, and that's absolutely fine if we have capacity. I just feel like with our budget cutting and cutting teachers, we have less capacity to take out-of-district students. So we need to be thoughtful about how we are accepting and taking and filling those out-of-district students so we do meet our neighborhood obligations.
The 93% is super intentional. The 94%, our reductions were based on hitting a 94% capacity target. So that 93 for out of district is super intentional to get to our budget neutral metric.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I do appreciate the discussion. I'll just add, and this, maybe we table it for maybe a different conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's other things to consider too, that district could, if all of this could be controversial, just keep in mind, like we're changing things, and this is neighborhood schools and elementary students, and it brings a lot of emotion. But we could lower the number, right? We could also set a date, which other districts have done, and they said we only take out of district applications on this date, and so then you level the timeline with everybody. That's the downside of that, is when you do that, then you have families move in mid-year, and they move to an area, and they say, this is where we want our kids going to school, and we say, that's great, wait until January or whenever that date is, and then we start collecting out of district applications on this date. The other thing that is maybe less popular, but an interesting thought that actually came up at our economic roundtable last week, was that you can go over accreditation standards. And so you could look at some classrooms that are high performing classrooms and say, the threshold in the first grade classroom is 20, but the student performance in this class is outstanding, and we're going to take 23 in this class. There are some accreditation rules that have changed in recent history, and we can do that without specifying specific time for paras to be in the room and do all that. But again, you're messing with class size, and none of these solutions are easy, and there's a pro and a con to all of these discussions. For right now, I feel comfortable with the 93%. It maintains some capacity. And I think it puts us on as an awareness to this meeting, it puts us on this course of, we have to watch the budget. We want to make sure we don't create the same problem we just cured. And we also probably should be aware that there's going to be a neighborhood boundary conversation at some point in the future that's more reflective of this current student population. Those studies and those processes are very unpopular when you start changing. And so, we will do that when we need to do it. Right now, we don't need to do that, but I do foresee that that's going to be a talking point as the valley grows, and we need to accommodate the growth.
Can I ask?
You can ask as many as you want.
I got one more, and I'm sorry, and it's going to sound like I'm a total hypocrite now. The special ed at 80%. Should we consider? I don't say we raise it to be reflective of 93% like we've done the others, but I do know that getting good quality special ed in our elementary schools is something that is, we do well. And I know that people do seek that out from out of district. And I think that to the extent we have capacity, I know obviously the teacher to student ratio and that is just different, but I mean, to the extent we have capacity to help more of those kids and families, I think we should really look hard at that. So,
yeah, I actually really agree. The special ed is just the self-contained. Any kiddo who participates in regular ed, which is the vast majority of our students with disabilities, they're calculated in that 93% capacity.
gotcha.
It's our district program, so it ends up being the 80% is no more than 8. If we have fewer than 8 students in a self-contained program, we'll accept out of district. And we're not even close in all of our programs are well beyond 8. We're so maxed out in our life skills and Aspire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those classes are also governed by service hours. So how many staffing positions you have for required services associated with the children in those programs. So that 80% is, yeah. And like Sarah said, I don't think we'll have to ever worry about it because we're over that number anyway.
Okay, I believe this one, sorry.
Linda, did you have some?
Well, it's kind of moot now, but One of the concerns that I have, and I'm sure, I don't know if this has ever happened, but if a family deliberately moves into a certain school district, they buy a house thinking I'm gonna go to Edgerton or I'm gonna go to Rankin, and then they can't after they purchased a home, because that to me would be, that just would be the worst scenario ever. I'm sure.
That happens.
Oh, God. Oh, is there any way that like, oh, I don't know. I just think that would be terrible.
Yeah, like I said, you could,
5 students a year, let's be fair, it's not rampant.
Doesn't matter if you're
Right,
that
same.
person, if you're that family buying that $900,000 home because you want your kid at Edgerton and that's why you upped your budget and then they can't go. Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
We're getting really close at Edgerton where we'll have enough enrollment metrics. There could potentially be a request even before the start of the school year. Just what I'm seeing and how these are ratcheting up and where wait lists are at, that if we did add back an FTE based on a metric conversation, the recommendation would likely be at Edgerton. Based on what Matt said, the growth in that neighborhood is pretty massive.
and just keep in mind, when we see an increase of 15 elementary students in the district, they're not all first graders,
Yeah.
right? So it really complicates this FTE discussion where you have 15 kids or maybe even 20, right? But they're spread out over 6 grade levels. And so,
Like 4 schools.
yeah, right.
I mean, question though, I mean, I'm seeing that Hedges with the combo classes. Is there an opportunity for a combo class at Edgerton to maybe absorb some of this? And
We've got one.
We've got one, I mean, Hedges has 2 combo classes.
Yeah, so
right?
we've added combo classes, and actually, Matt, to your point, we've got one example or multiple examples is some of those combo classes are the teachers we're asking to do them are teachers who have exceptional results with kids. Like, we know that they're up for the challenge. We're going to provide PD and all those things. I think the kids we need to look out for the most, like if I'm just looking at evidence-based practices and our filters for like who we're most concerned about, it would be a student that was displaced to one school and then displaced to another school. It's our families who have kids that have bounced. Those are the kids I think are a priority to protect, because research is super clear that when kids move schools multiple times, their opportunity and achievement gap widens.
That's why they give them in their neighborhood school from the get-go instead of parents. They
Totally.
don't have bounds.
That's the goal. That's the goal for sure.
This is somewhat from what Liz was saying before and somewhat from what Sarah's saying. When Liz was talking about daycare and about using classroom space, and you again talking about adding FTE, I'm getting the impression, is this correct or not, that we are more tight, we're not as tight for physical space as we once were, that we're more tight for FTE than for people than for building space. We are now.
Well, with the reductions we made on the elementary side, it naturally freed up some classroom spaces, which allowed us to add an early lit and a daycare.
So we are not currently space confined on the K-5.
It depends on the school, but we have more spaces K-5 than we did in previous years because of the reductions.
Even though this is a policy, can this be pushed to a committee and be discussed instead of at the board meeting?
Is there a request to have a committee meeting to discuss this, or did the discussion tonight answer the questions?
I'll let the chair decide that.
I would say if there's further questions, that it get pushed to the finance committee to be reviewed financially, how it will best fit our policies. My recommendation, if it's if you guys got your questions answered, we'll just move on from it. Yep.
This just as a thought, which maybe will also help like put anybody's mind at ease. Obviously, these are issues, but just to put it in perspective, the district is doing way better now than they were doing very recently. 15 years ago, when my son signed up for kindergarten, many kids that were living in houses that their families had bought, we were one of them. We bought a house a block and a half away from Peterson, and we could not fit into our neighborhood schools. And the redistricting that happened was very recently. And so this is an issue, but it is already so much less of an issue than it was very recently. And obviously, increased growth adds on to these issues faster. But like the idea that we could solve it every single year with the amount of growth that we have, I think is not possible. And I think that we need to remember that this is an issue that very recently was very dramatically taken into account. And like the redistricting was a big deal. People did not take it lightly. They had lived in places where they expected that they were going to have that. And I do think Matt's right, that to truly address this, we will have to redistrict again. We need more kids going to the schools that there are less kids at. We've seen this in every single financial metric. Edgerton is already running very economically. We need some of these smaller schools to have more students. The only way to do that is with redistricting, rebounding, is that the word? Changing the boundaries. And that's a really big deal that takes a very long time and that the community will have a lot of big opinions on. So I think although 4 students is not great, in the grand scheme of things, everybody's doing the best that they can.
Thank you for that. And I would say, if you have any further questions, please reach out to Sarah. And then Sarah, if you're getting a bunch of questions, we'll push it on to, I changed my mind, we'll push it on to the policy committee to have further discussion on. But if we don't, just bring it on for a second reading.
I like that idea. And in early August, you guys, I should have a really good update. Like we were checking enrollment nonstop, but early August is another time where we're checking, like, are there any last minute moves that we need to make based on enrollment? So that could be another really good time to give an update and answer any questions.
Thank you. So if you have further questions, please reach out to Sarah. With that, moving on to the elementary consent agenda. If we've had an opportunity to review that, do we have an elementary trustee willing to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? Elementary? All right, seeing none, all elementary only, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. District-wide consent agenda. If you've had an opportunity to review those, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up is trustee reports. Jack, anything?
Nothing.
Well, Rebecca?
This is actually was brought up by Matt's email. Thank you, Matt. Made us think, always a good thing. Another year in their books, great job, everyone. I think we survived it. And I do think we need to remember some of the challenges we have lived through in the last couple of years and some of the healing that may have to happen from them. The interim superintendent caused certain rifts and difficulties, and the long contract, really did change some feelings among our staff. And I think we just have to remember to really work on repairing that and really be cognizant of it. And I personally am trying to remember it. And I think we have a staff that might be a little different than it was 2 years ago. And I think we need to be respectful. I'm just thinking about where my head is. And that's where my head is we may feel, oh, we overcame the difficulties, but there's still scars.
I actually have 2 things, and I apologize for my voice. I don't know where it went, but it's not quite there. First of all, I wanted to let you know that both Matt and I were in Helena last week for a presentation from Dr. Marguerite Rosa from Georgetown University, and I will forward several articles to you. Her talk was basically outcome-based budgeting processes, and really important for us to keep some of the things in mind. Is this program working, and how are we demonstrating that. The workshop was full of legislators, administrators, school trustees, people from private organizations, and it was across the board. I mean, there were private charter school advocates there. There were public school advocates. It was quite amazing. And as Matt said, she managed to irritate every one of us at different times, but really challenged our mindset. I was challenged the entire time with her way of thinking. Some people, I mean, you could just tell when they bristled over it, but a really powerful workshop. And especially with this group, it was perfect. It was a day and a half. The second day, we left the workshop and the decennial study team began. So it was very timely. And I will forward some articles that are very good. But I think it's something when we get into our budget process next year, we'll need to ask some better questions. And the second thing I wanted to mention was about the email sent out about the board retreat. The board retreat is board focused. I don't want admin to feel like you have to put on a show for us for our board retreat. It is meant to be a time when the board members sit down and brainstorm and discuss things. It doesn't have to be, a long process, but I don't want admin to feel like you have to put on a dog and pony show for us all the time, because I know we're a really charming audience, but but please don't feel like you have to do that. I know I talked with Scott, offering to put together something for it, and that offer still stands. So anyway, that's my second thing.
I just want to say that the graduations were awesome. They went very, very well, and it's so wonderful to be part of it. Oh, just being with those kids and their joy. Anyway, congrats on that. It was good.
Ditto the graduation. Best part of what we get to do as trustees. It's amazing. I will sit in a hot gym all day, every day and do that. That is so much fun. Curious what the tassel drop was. I saw Scott drop one. I was not involved in the tassels.
I just pulled it off.
Okay. Anyway,
Pulled it off and threw it.
anyway. And then also, I'm not sure if we acknowledged our appreciation for the FHS activities assistant Nicole and the loss of her. Okay, good. Anyway, thanks for sharing that in the email. So that's all I got. Thanks.
I also want to say great job on graduation. Appreciate the board being at those, or as many as you could. I know it's a really busy time for everybody, and it is a great way for us to help celebrate the students that we support. With that, I also want to thank staff for the great job they did all year with, Sarah coming in her first year, Matt's year and a half in now. And just a lot of challenges that we had to oversee and make some hard decisions on this year. And I really appreciate the board in general and the communication that you had with me, the communication that you had with staff, and just the willingness to ask the questions. And we just made a lot of changes this year that you guys rolled with that I think some have been really good. Some we can make some other changes on. And just what a year that we've had, ups and downs, and just appreciate everyone's role in what they had to do this year. So thank you to that. Sue and to answer your question about the board retreat, yeah, I agree with you. After you made that suggestion, I did go in and chat with Matt about kind of what that retreat should look like. And I'm looking at this as kind of a hybrid as to we're not coming together as one kind of long day to where we're trying to cover as much as we can in that one long day. I think that the first day of the Doris Mountain Summit will be good for us to attend if we have the ability to. And then the second day, which will be in August, where staff is actually bringing and doing some dog and pony show stuff for us. But it'll also be an opportunity for us as the board to hear what kind of staff's vision is for the next year or two. But then also for us as a board to give them some direction too as to where we think we're either doing really well or where we can improve some and give them some other ideas on how to improve where we're going. So if this doesn't work this year, I'm all in favor for sitting down with Matt again and doing something different. So I always appreciate everyone's ideas and support they've given me over the last year or two. It's meant a lot. So I think that's all I got. Moving on.
Continue the theme. People say things at weddings, funerals, and graduations that are just good to hear. And I thought the student speakers and the student performers were just amazing. And you can't not watch that and not be inspired. And so it's just fun to show those students off and be a part of that. So that was definitely a highlight of the year. And then I'm gonna plug Doris Mountain. So 25th, 26th. When we look at the heartbeat of this organization, it's to grow students and excellence in teaching and learning. And I'm so proud of our staff. I'm so proud of the people that have just in the lead here and what they're doing for our schools, what they're doing for our partner schools, what they're doing to model things in our state. And I just want you guys to be a part of it. So if you can carve as much time as you can carve out to see what's happening there and to get a little bit more information about what this actually means, it'd just be great. I think it'd be worth your time and you'd enjoy it.
Have you guys sent us the whole schedule?
It's in that link. Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
I just want to give a shout out to Caitlin Heiser. We've been working on this profile of a graduate the last 2 years. Schools kind of created their own. We had a district team synthesize all those different competencies, sent out a parent and community survey, and had students involved in the process. And this last piece was we approached Caitlin's Marketing 2 class, and they connected and collaborated with the graphic arts department to pitch us ideas on the profile of a graduate logo. They also looked at the student climate survey. We've talked about this the last few years, like how students treat other students and the value in explicitly teaching these competencies or reflecting on these competencies. So anyways, Pete and I were able to go to the Marketing 2 class and have 5 different teams pitch us their ideas on how to bring it to life. And so we're taking a combination of all their ideas and I'm going to finalize it and can't wait to share it with you guys. But Caitlin just on a whim was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. And allowed us into her space. So shout out to her and thank you guys for a great first year. I've really loved it and look forward to next.
Is that profile district wide or is that for the high schools?
It'll be district wide. And the high school kids even went so far as like, okay, one of our competencies is resiliency. Let's create a video of what it looks like. And we can go to the elementary schools and share it with them and teach them the lessons. Like the kids were just so excited to be a part of it, not just design the logo, but actually be a part of it. And so, yeah, it's really exciting.
Liz, Carrie, do you guys have anything?
onboarding with Carrie has been really fun. Her medical background from Greater Valley and et cetera in the Valley will be a really strong asset to our team and where HR needs to go and partner with others this year. So I'm just really excited for Carrie to be here, and thanks you guys for being so welcoming.
And actually, Carrie, I'm actually going to give you this time to, since I totally spaced it out at the beginning, to introduce yourself to us and give us a little background.
My name is Carrie Brady. I was born and raised in Whitefish, went through high school there. I've been in the medical field for about 38 years in one form or fashion as a practice administrator. I worked for Logan as a patient access director. Went through a couple of different specialties, neurosurgery, gynecology, urology, ENT. So kind of the gamut of the medical field, and most currently at Greater Valley Health Center as the HR director there and finance director. Saw this position, and it spoke to me. I felt like it would be a good, I just like to learn new things. So I thought I'm going to go way out of my comfort zone and apply. And it's been just a great, great experience so far. So I'm really, really excited. And I'm glad I'm having some time with Liz. Everybody's been very welcoming. And I'm just looking forward to doing a good job.
Thank you and welcome again from the board.
Scott, can you introduce the other new face in the room, or at least new to me? Maybe I'm just the only.
Eric, you want to introduce your
I want you to introduce Kat instead.
This is Kat, our new IT facilitator. Kat Kuchera.
Yeah, would you come up and introduce yourself and give us a little background of yourself? And Jack, I know you got to bounce, so as soon as you need to, go ahead. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kat Kuchera. I have been in the Valley for about 10 years. I taught for over a decade before switching into technology-related role, and I've been in that for the last 5 years. And so I'm very excited to be part of the team here.
Thank you, Kat. Welcome. Next up is we do have a special board meeting on the 23rd. That would be to interview the new trustee position, or not the new position, new trustee for the vacant position down in Lakeside Summers, Marion. And that committee is me, Jen, and Will. And so it's to be determined. It has not been set yet. When is that closed?
Yeah, we still have one. That closed, yeah.
Yeah. So we're waiting to see. We have one applicant so far. It looks like it could be a good applicant for us. And so we'll do that interview. Once it closes, and we determine how many we have. And then the Tuesday, June 24th board meeting. And then Wednesday, Thursday, 25th and 26th is the Doris Mountain Summit. If you can make it, please do. Pete, do you want a registration from us or just show up if we can?
Show up.
Okay, thank you. So don't have to worry about the registration. If you have questions and can't find the schedule, you can email Pete or me and we can get it to you. So with that,
Just a FYI, last year we had 150 participants at Doris Mountain. This year we have 250 signed up.
Woo!
another.
Well, I'm not now.
Um,
Move to adjourn.
hold on one sec before we do that. that is a huge shout out to Pete. Pete's done so much work on this. I believe it's Pete's vision on starting the summit. Really with the great work in PCBE we've done,
Matt's vision.
combination of our staff over here.
Real team effort over there.
Yeah, and so, great job on growing that by 100. Next summer, it should be up to 350. So, we'll be renting out some large conference room, so, but thank you to staff for putting that together. I think that shows the vision of our district and, what a leader we are in, PCBE in this area, let alone the state. So good job on that. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Rebecca. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Deb.